Hey guys, Sam here at NA Studios. Today I want to show you a really effective snare reverb trick, and this is going to make sure you get consistent reverb on every single hit in your mix. Let's check it out. So here I've got a mix of some drums, and there's an issue with the snare reverb. When the player hits the snare slightly differently, if they do a rim shot, if they hit it in a slightly different place on the head, we get sort of a different pitch on the reverb, which is pretty annoying and frustrating when in the mix it's not going to sound the same every time. Let's just take a listen, and in the kind of the second half of it, we start to hear it. Now that's a natural part of the playing, but in a mix, in a rock mix particularly, we need consistency. We've got no room for anything to be slightly out of whack. So here's a great tip using one-shot samples to fire your reverb. In Logic, we've got like the drum doubler kind of thing, like the drum triggering. So I'm going to press Command and D and do that. So I'm just going to double this, and I'm going to put it onto note D1, because that's what I tend to use for snares. So let's go for D1. And then let's go OK, because the velocities all seem okay. So here we've now got just a snare trigger track. Now at the moment it's going to have nothing on it, or it's going to have that weird Logic beep. Horrible. So what we need to do is open up our sampler, and we're going to put a one-shot snare sample just onto D1. So if I bring up my mapping here, I can see D1 over here. Now for this, I'm going to use my one-shot snare pack, which you can download at the link below, completely for free. There are 11 one-shot snares there. There's something for everyone, some tight stuff, some fat stuff, some medium stuff. For this, I'm going to use Fat Steel Snare 1, because that is a real fat-sounding snare. I'm going to drop that onto D1 in my sampler. One more thing I need to do for this, I want to go into zone and just make sure that one shot is on. So it's going to play the full sample all the way through. There'll be a way of doing this in whatever DAW you're working in if this is not in Logic, but this just means that it's going to disregard how long the MIDI note is, and it's going to play the entire sample, and that's exactly what we want. And when we press play, we will hear that one shot sample. Cool. So what I want to do first for that is take off some of the top end, because as we know, if we're putting loads and loads of top end into a reverb, it's going to make it sound quite unnatural. And as we're doing something quite unnatural here as it is, we need to tame that back a touch. Bring up some of them lows. Nice and fat. Now what we're going to do is send this snare trigger into our reverb, with one difference. We're going to send it into our reverb, drum verb, there we go, send that all the way up, but we don't want it coming out of stereo out. We don't want this actual sample coming out of anywhere. So I'm just going to send that to no output. So now that one-shot snare sample is not coming out any output. We're not actually going to hear the sample, we're just going to hear the reverb that's being sent into that reverb bus. I'm going to get a nice clear shot of that reverb every single time. That's going to be exactly the same. Let's take a listen to that now. Tame that down a bit. It's going to be exactly the same no matter how hard the drummer has hit it, whereabouts on the drum they've hit it, if they've done a rim shot, whatever it is, it's going to be exactly the same every time. If you listen to that in comparison to how it was before, the pitch of that reverb sometimes changes, sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, and we don't have as much control over the reverb sound there. So if we just get rid of bus 5 on that one and bring it in on the snare sample track, we've just got that one hit of reverb that's going to be consistent, and it's going to help to punch through a dense rock mix. Thanks so much for watching. That's such a great thing to be able to do, to set your track so it's not coming out the output, it's just going out of the reverb, and you get that consistency in your snare, and that is so helpful in a rock mix. Thanks so much for checking it out. I'll see you again soon. Take care.